I am so happy to welcome Dame Doria Cordova, who is with us today. And she is known as Mama Cordova and Mama Doria to many people, especially to Mo Rock at the Los Angeles Tribune. And can I call you Mama Doria?
No, because then the whole world will start calling me that. But Mo is my little brother.
Oh,
I tell him too many stories. He tells me too many stories. He tells me a story he would not tell a mother.
well, I know he admires you so much and he is so grateful for you. Whenever he talks about you, he just lights up. And as a woman who has accomplished so much in your life, we wanted to feature you at the Global Women's Leadership Symposium in March, but unfortunately, you're going to be out of town. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to shine some light on you and to showcase your leadership because you have done some amazing things in your life. And I wanted to tell our audience just a little bit about you. Dame Doria is the owner of Accelerated Business School for Entrepreneurs, Money and You, where she has had over 200,000 graduates and counting in 85 countries and counting. And she has done so many amazing things. She's written numerous books. She's been a part of Think and Grow Rich for Women. And she has also been involved with renewables. She supports humanitarian causes all across the world. And so, Dame Doria, if you could just tell us a little bit more about you, and I just want to applaud you for all of
Oh,
your
thank you. Well, by the time you're 75, you're supposed to have done all of these things, right? So, it's like I want to take so much credit, but actually it has to do with age and how long we've been around. But, pretty much I have been running the company that I run today. And I was looking at that the other day for 46 years. I started when I was 29 years old. And I remember when I started thinking like, oh my God, I should have started 5 years ago. And now when I look at a 29-year-old woman, I go, oh my God, they're so young. And
yeah.
so I've been doing this. And without me knowing, I was part of a team that was led by Marshall Thurber and Bobby DePorter, who co-created, co-founded in many ways the entrepreneurial, experiential, transformational training industry that so many of us are now part of. But they didn't know it. I didn't know it, that was being created. It was just simply what we were doing at the time, which was to bring experiential entrepreneurial trainings to the world. And of course, people loved it so much. So we grew and grew first in the United States. And then when my mentors, I inherited the work from them. And they went on to do other things. Bobby DePorter to work with teenagers through Super Camp and quantum learning. And now she's in a beautiful project called CASE. And Marshall Thurber went on to become a high level consultant for major companies and entrepreneurs in the Deming technology and others. And so I inherited this work. And then I needed a partner at the time, and it was 1985. And I chose this young man that had been around us for about 4 years. And that was Robert Kiyosaki, which, of course, later we designed what his future was going to be like. And so we went different ways after being partners for 9 years. But it was like, and then, of course, we started growing the Asia Pacific region, the whole industry. We kind of grew there, and now it's so huge. I was just there, and it was like it's definitely interesting because so many of the graduates and people have been either they did the Money and You program, the business school, or other accelerated programs, or they learn from people that learn, you know, from us. And so it's really interesting because now we have this multi-generation of these young people that kind of like see me as the grandmother and like the granddom of this industry because they've heard about me from so long ago. And so, but it's interesting because I'm in the background, right? I'm a CEO. I'm the one running, things in the back. And that's a good thing for everyone to understand that many times what looks like the rock star, what looks like the power, you really need to find out who the power is behind the power, right? And so I I just been doing this work that I love so much. Money and You for 46 years, the business school for 47 years. And I actually have been working on myself for 49 years. Next year, on October 31st, 2026, it will be 50 years from my anniversary of when I consciously chose to work on myself. And so I'm a bit of a product of somebody that benefited so greatly from the beginning of this industry that now has mindset work, coaching work, personal development, but in those days it was called human potential. And so I'm a product of working on yourself. I'm a product of somebody that really committed her life to the betterment of humanity, but living a regular life in the sense of, just going to work every day. Of course, my job has been so beautiful, putting on programs, being around people who want to learn and entrepreneurs. And I was privy to being mentored with some of the greatest business people at the time. And so, and I was there when Tony Robbins was just getting started. And so it has been a fabulous life. And that was my second life, because prior to that, I was in the legal field for 8 years. And I actually have to say, the more that I advance into my legacy, my legal background set the foundation for me to have the level of success that I reached, because in law, I was an official court reporter. Prior to that, I was an interpreter, and then I was going to grow up to be an attorney. There is a lot of structure, there are systems, there's principles. And so that kind of set my personality and my brain for me to be very systematized and use the law and use what's accepted out in the world to create an economic engine. And I have to be very grateful for that, because I feel like a lot of people don't have that benefit, and I did. So that's a little bit about my background.
Well, that's very interesting how you started in law and then you made that transition.
Hold on. Cut. My TV just came on. Sorry. Sorry. We don't know how long. Would they be able to edit this?
Oh, it's live right now, but we'll just keep going. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. Also, people are seeing us right now.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I didn't know that we were being seen.
Yes, we are live. Well, that
where are we live?
Oh, we are live on Facebook and LinkedIn, and yes, everyone can see you now. Yes. That's really interesting how that foundation in law helped you to learn that systematized approach, because I can see how that would make such a difference for all of the courses and the trainings that you had put on. To have, it's one thing to be your age and to have accomplished one thing. Written a book is pretty amazing. Taught a course is pretty amazing. But to have a university and to be in so many countries, and you're the founding member of the Transformational Leadership Council in the Southern California Association of Transformational Leaders. There are so many things that you have done, and it's no wonder that they knighted you as a dame from the Sovereign Order of Orthodox Knights. I'm really amazed with all you have done. But how did you make that transition from law to personal development? What was it that caused you to want to change your professions?
It was actually it was a lot of pain, if I may say that, because I had a lot of loss. When I was 18, I started my adult life with tremendous loss. I was going to be married, and a month before we were going to be married, my fiance at the time, in 1968, you got married at 18 years old, right?
Right.
He was killed a month before we were going to be married.
Oh.
And that 18-year-old that still lives within me, she'll never get over that. And so you kind of learn to just kind of like put your arms around your inner family, around those aspects of us that have suffered so much. And then I lost his baby 4 months after he died on the night of his birthday. And that was so traumatic and so painful that I pretty much shut down completely. So I became a the way that I handle. We didn't have. Let me just say this: we didn't have any summits. We didn't have any books. We didn't have anything like we do now. So what I had to do was to be able to just really take in and just become a workaholic in order for me to handle life. And I became so successful by the time I was 24 years old, except that I was so empty because my emotional intelligence was so low. I had no ability to be able to take care of myself in any way, shape, or form, emotionally. So I kind of ran away from Los Angeles, where I was in a very prestigious in a profession that I had worked very hard to become an official court reporter in the criminal court systems of Los Angeles. You have to be almost perfect in your typing, on your stenotype abilities, your background. I mean, I think the test was something like 97.5 accuracy in spelling, in grammar, it's the toughest test, and I passed it.
Yeah.
And so I ran away to Hawaii at 25 years old. And there I had what could be considered an enlightenment experience. And it was an awakening that I actually did not understand at the time. But through a series of circumstances, I ended up being a court reporter for the state of Hawaii versus the EST organization for practicing psychology without a license. And it was there that I encountered the leadership of some of the greatest enrollers on the planet. And they enrolled me into the S training, which was the predecessor of landmark education. And within weeks, I was in that program. And that was the program on October 31st that I actually realized that I had control over nothing. The only thing I had control over was my consciousness. And on October 31st, 1976, I committed that I would spend the rest of my life mastering my own consciousness, my own mindset. What we didn't call it mindset then. And it was there that I then kind of began to look for what were my next steps. But then I met Buckminster Fuller, and then a year later, I went to the first business school for entrepreneurs, which is the work that I inherited, that had been created by Marshall Thurber and Bobby DePorter. So in many ways, and I can say this to this group, is that I literally was putting one foot in front of the other, but I had tremendous support with masters like Sandra Ray and other teachers that were supporting me. And literally, I was part of a mastermind. I belonged to masterminds. I had mentors. I had coaches. I had people that were around me. So you can't do that alone. You have to have support. And this is why I love you guys so much. I love my Mo and all the leadership and in this beautiful platform of the Los Angeles Tribune, because you bring so much education. The other day I was in Asia and I was with huge crowds. When I was telling them about the Los Angeles Tribune, I said, I want you to go back to my Facebook and I want you to go and look at all the summits that they present. And I put them on my Facebook. That is the most amazing education. You have it on marketing, on leadership, on quantum energy. It's like, I want you to go and learn. And then I was telling them about the Los Angeles Tribune, because I feel that you're doing such magnificent work to provide all these tools that, oh my God, had I had it, I probably would be running the world right now had I had this kind of information when I was so young. So
absolutely. That's one of the things that attracted me to the Los Angeles Tribune was Mo's desire to give women more platforms where they could speak more, where they could publish their stories more, and to provide this uplifting content for free, that nobody pays when they come to attend our events. They get to learn for free. Where does that happen, to hear from all these, giants in the industry, all these leaders? And you have spoken many times and shared your wisdom, and I appreciate you so much for doing that and for sharing your wisdom here today, because you are a great example of overcoming, and from where you came from and the place that you were in with so much loss, your trajectory of your life could have gone very differently.
Oh,
But you,
very.
yes, but yet you said, what can I control? I will choose to learn. I will choose to be better. And I just want to say bravo to you for making those choices, because we can all choose how we want to think about something, and we can choose to learn.
And I want people to make sure that they know that it's not easy.
Right.
Now when I talk about it, it was like, it was really, really tough. It was like I had to leave a lot of friends. I had, part of the pain, not only my boyfriend was the first one to die, we had an additional 13 friends that died within 3 years. I ended up having a miscarriage of his baby. I also miscarried a second baby. And then there was the Vietnam War, and you know how the world is really crazy here in the United States. By the way, the rest of the world is really moving on, just so you guys know. Like when they say there's going to be a worldwide crisis, in Asia, they're very prepared. They're very prepared for what might happen with the United States. What most people don't understand, we don't run the world. We really do not run the world. We may have a military might, but there, there are countries that are thriving and growing. And I just came back from being with some of amazing, financial masters and mentors, people that manage outrageous amounts of money. And they were telling me about all these rich Americans that are now investing in China. They have so much business because they're just kind of like they're just doing things outside because they know money, they know the markets, they know what's going to happen, and they're taking their money out. And it was like, I go, what? That's what the Chinese used to do out of China, and now it's like the world just keeps thriving and growing. And so what we need to do is, like, the world does all these things, but what I learned and what I really want everyone to always get, if there's anything that anyone will get, is the fact that it's an inside job. So if you work on yourself, and particularly women, who we have a few disadvantages around the world, particularly with women, we have to be able to handle our own emotional intelligence and
Yes.
be able to make those choices that are really, really tough. And for me, it was just a matter of survival. I had to, like, to leave friends when you are 24, 25 years old. It's not easy to leave your friends that are partying and doing things that can kill you, right? And then it was like, no, that's not what I choose to do. I'm leaving California. I'm going to Hawaii. And I left everything. I know Hawaii is absolutely gorgeous, but I left my tribe. I left my friends. But it was just a matter, I knew that I had to get away in order to kind of reset, and that takes a lot of courage. So I just
Absolutely.
want to make sure that people don't think I'm like specially courageous, because I'm not. I'm just a regular human being. But it is tough to make certain choices that will really make a difference in your life.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I think sometimes people do look at someone like you and think, well, she's different than me. It was easier for her to do that. But it isn't easy. It's hard for all of us to do it. And it does take incredible courage, especially to leave your support system and to be, in a new, a new state, almost like a new country.
What
and
Hawaii is another country.
right. And the way that you were so empowered. You're talking about emotional intelligence. That's my favorite topic, is learning to manage our emotions. And what advice would you give to women as leaders? Because I think that very many times that is a mystery to women as leaders, is how can I manage my emotions? I'm dealing with all of these stressful things as a leader. What are some of the things that you have learned in regard to that?
Well, number one, what you need to understand is that not everyone is a leader. Not everyone is. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you start to step up and you know that you're a leader, know that not everyone is. So don't treat everyone else as a leader too, because they will not have those distinctions like you do. They will not have that level of courage. They will not have the willingness nor the desire to do that. There's many people that are very happy, and this in the Money and You program, we have been given this feedback for the last 46 years that we have saved so much time and money and energy for many people who discover in Money and You that they were not entrepreneurs, but they can be part of an entrepreneurial team where they get profit sharing, they can get wealthy, they can thrive and have a beautiful life without being the leader and without being the person that's taking all the risk and is investing all the money on something that they really want to do. So, number one, not everyone is a leader, so don't treat others as everyone else is. The other thing is that women, and please forgive me, and I don't mean to offend any men anywhere in the world right now, but there is no country on the planet that has equality for women. There's no country, there's no such thing. In certain countries, it's even more obvious. They actually have, listings where they have the men are going to be paid this much and the woman is going to be paid anywhere between 20, 30, 40% less than the men on the same listing. We used to have that in the United States way back in the day, but most people don't realize how it's only been a few decades that women have been able to do quite a few things, right? And I remember in the 70s when we were first able to use credit cards. In the 60s, you couldn't. Your husband or your father, somebody had to sign for you. And so without realizing it, it's like we have to work harder. We have to stay longer. We have to study more and just make that part of the game. Use that. Use the Aikido. If something is coming at you, instead of resisting it, you kind of go with it and make it work for you. Support each other. Don't ever compete with other women. Don't ever take somebody else's sweetie away. Don't be stealing men, women, whatever you're into. Do not do that because you create a karmic tie that it will take a million ho'oponoponos to clear. Because what you want to do is you want to see the sisterhood as it is, which is it's our job to empower and support each other. Don't gossip. Don't make people wrong. If you have jealousy over another woman because she's more beautiful, she's richer, she's smarter, become friends with them. Learn from them. This is a superpower I've had since high school that I didn't know that I had, which if a girl was really beautiful and she had perfect hair, perfect dressing, perfect everything, I made her my friend. I wanted to know how she got that beautiful. And one of the jokes I have, she always had so many boys around her, and she could only be with one, so there was always a lot of boys for me. It's like I was into collaboration already and didn't know it in high school, right? And so
yes, you were.
that was collaboration at its best. So what you have to do is when you see that women um, don't support each other. I mean, I couldn't believe in the last election how many women were against a woman. It was like, and they came up with this really interesting conversations, and it just shocked me. It was like, are you kidding me? You're talking about a woman. And it was like, oh, she's this, she's this, she's that. And never in a million years would I vote for her. And I'm like, whoa. And without looking at things from a logical point of view. So as women, we can't afford to go into all those emotional states. More than anybody else, we have to say, is this a fact or is this an opinion? Is this something that I am just imagining? Or is this something that is really, really happening? When somebody is as accomplished as this woman was that ran for president, and there's all these stories about her, it's like, no, that's not how the world works. That is not how it works. Somebody that gets to those levels has really worked hard, and they're very prominent. And so I see it. That was just a wild example. It's not that I'm a major fan of Kamala Harris. I'm just talking about the the energy that certain women had against her, that
Right.
was so personal about themselves and about their own women around them, and
Right.
without them realizing that they were speaking about themselves.
Right.
And so, like like I I don't want to put down men either. I think that it's our job to really begin to understand that everything is happening within us. And so if I also have a big judgment, but for some reason, sometimes it's a lot easier for me to communicate with a man than with a woman. See, that's a little bit of a judgment right there. With guys, it's like I can tell them anything and they're like, okay, got it, whatever. Whereas sometimes with women, I just have to be a little bit more gentle and I have to prepare them and I have to work a little bit more and then just let them know it's not personal, but I want to empower you, I want to support you. That it shouldn't be that way. We need to put our big girl pants on. If you want to be a leader, you want to succeed, you want to lead a team, you want to be wealthy, you want to change the world, you want to transform this world, you're going to have a behavior that is loving, supportive, and non-judgmental.
Oh, Dame Doria, this is so incredible. I mean, when you said we can't afford we can't afford to not empower each other either, because it is a very difficult world, and there are so many obstacles that we face just as women in all our professions, and especially as women leaders. It can often be a predominantly male world, and so to have a woman like you who empowers other women, I am just so happy when I meet a woman like you, because there aren't very many women who empower other women. And I just thank you so much. And thank you for your example of doing that. I've seen you with the Los Angeles Tribune. I have seen how you support other women, and with, as the rising tide lifts all boats, you are lifting women through your example, through your behaviors, through the love and the great emotional intelligence that you possess. And I wanted to thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Karen, and for the work that you do and doing all of this, and you're always there, always supporting, and your intelligence. The one thing I have to say to Mo about Mo is that he definitely surrounds himself with some very beautiful, intelligent women. He's a very smart man, very smart. You
Yes,
know,
he is.
so I gotta give my little brother that big compliment, and all of you, and for all of you men listening right now, you really need to look around you too on who is really empowering you. I mean, it is so common to have somebody like a woman running a business, and when she leaves the business, she's not treated equally, she's not treated accordingly, she's not given ownership or stock or whatever she needs to be given value, and she leaves. Many businesses fall apart because they were the glue that put it all together. And so you need to identify that which the women around you are really doing and be able to share that with them, share the wealth. And forever, ever, I will be grateful to Marshall Thurber, because I was very, very young and he was the rock star in the world. And when Money and You was created so that I could have a job, because the business school came first. Money and You was a much shorter version of the business school. And then you know, he was going to be the owner. I was just going to be the worker. I mean, I was too young. I wasn't sophisticated. I didn't know much about business. I knew a lot about business, but there was a lot I didn't know. And he says, no, 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 no. You're going to be like my equal partner. You're going to own Money and You 50-50. And he was like, my God, I was given an opportunity and I ran with it, and just made it happen because of that ownership aspect. Once you feel like you own something, and then of course it was actually a spiritual thing too, but I didn't recognize it at the time. But it was meant for me to do this, and that's what I keep going. So, and you need, as a leader, you also need to recognize those people that are up and coming and nurture those, and don't just go by opinion, people's gossip, or things that you see superficially. is the results. Like
Yeah.
Marsha Martin said, taught me. I love Marsha Martin for many reasons, but she taught me this. In life, you either have reasons for not creating what you wanted to create, or you have the results that will speak for themselves.
Oh, wow. The results speak for themselves. That's really powerful. So tell me, I remember attending your birthday party and hearing the wonderful stories and seeing the pictures of you through the years and with your mother. And I'm wondering, did you gain your thirst for knowledge and your confidence to take these steps? Do you feel like you gained that from someone in your
Yes.
youth? Was there an example in your life?
Of course, and you mentioned her. My mother. My mother was a single mom. She had me at 25 years old. I start remembering her at when I was 3. She was only 28 years old, right? And she was fabulous. This was a fabulous woman in the 50s. 1953, I was 3 years old. By the time I was 5, she owned her own beauty salon. She would have been 30 years old in Chile, in Santiago, with her own business and already leveraging herself and creating her own shampoo, her own soaps, and also supporting people that were, underserved, underprivileged. We used to, they used to do permanent perms, right? With
Yeah.
these little wooden things. And that's when she took me with her so that I could visit a prison, and we used to give jobs to prisoners to make her little tubes, and she would take me there in order for me to learn that if you break the law you're going to end up in here. With my mother, everything was a teaching moment with mama, and she's so beautiful. I still have her. She's going to be 100 on June 14th, and she's still teaching me because she now has what we call good dementia, and she's just this happy being. She has
Oh,
no future, has no past, and she just like I love meditating around her. I love taking her to have pancakes and her breakfast that she loves so much, and she just is. And this is I was looking at her yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was telling my beloved who was sitting in the back seat, you realize this woman has been my constant for 75 years. This is the woman that has shown me how to live life. She totally experienced a sufficiency. This is a woman that knows what enough is. And and you know i I come home. I'm very blessed where we live in San Diego on the water. The place looks like a ship. It looks like a suite in a ship. And I was just in 3-room suites on top of buildings, and I come home and home is more beautiful. And because of nature, because I love nature, right? And so we also need to be very aware of our values. The mind is a funny thing. Sometimes we think, oh, that and that. But when we're very connected to our values, which is something that my mother, my auntie, her sister, and her mother, my grandmother, all instill within me. So it's like, and we can't break away from them. It's like those values are very important for us to live by, surrounded by a life purpose, which is surrounded by an economic engine. And and that says everything on how I have led my life.
that is so beautiful. I love the example of your mother. I love that she has been your rock for 75 years. That is just so beautiful. And that she is still with you and that you can still learn from her. I mean, even having her be happy with her situation and her circumstances and be, just enjoying the actual present moment. And for you to be able to enjoy that together. That's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, I could freak out at moments. I mean, there are moments when I go, Mama loved her home. She loved cooking. She loved putzing around her house. She has none of that anymore. But she doesn't know that. So you have to be really present. People get very depressed around the parents being in a nursing home. They're there because they need care 24/7. They're like babies. They can't take care of themselves. They need a team of people to take care of them, right?
Right.
And then every once in a while, I go into the space of like, oh my God. And then I have to snap out of it. I have to be present myself and go look at the situation right now. And then that allows me to be present with every situation. Look, whether it's financial, whether it's health, somebody just gave you the worst news that you have a terminal disease, or somebody, or your best friend dies, or the economy is going to tank, or there's so much fear in this space. You have to be present and just go, wait, okay, I have all the tools, all those programs that I've done, all that coaching that I have had, all those mentors, all those people that I have. Right now, this is the moment when I need to take 3 deep breaths. And that's self-mastery, moment to moment to moment. It's like life is one big learning experience. Life is a seminar. Life is a money and you. And once you get that, you like, oh, you land, and then you will find that inside of you and around you, you have all the resources, all the assets. You have access to resources, to knowledge, to cash, to investments, to what is it that you have to have? What is it that you need? And that's my new definition of wealth.
That's wonderful. And I love how you said to, take all that you have learned, all the mentors, all of the coaching, all that you have learned, and apply it moment by moment. It is mastery moment by moment. It's not ever a one and done kind of a thing. It's a constant work in progress. And I think that's something that's great to remind everybody of, because to hear that you're still applying and still working and still practicing all the things that you have learned, that is very empowering for our audience to know that this is something that we're going to keep practicing. We're just going to get better and better each time that we have an opportunity, and to look at those opportunities that come our way with that scary news. Here's another opportunity for me to practice and to implement the things that I have learned.
And that's what enlightenment really is. Every once in a while, I remember a friend of mine. He was so beautiful. He was a friend of mine from Santa Cruz, and I had been working on myself for about 7 years, 8 years. He hadn't been that long, and I stopped by just to visit with him. He was an old friend, and then he says, "I'm completely enlightened now." And I said, "Oh, okay." He says, "I am enlightened," and I go, "Okay." And I had just been learning. I had been reading all these books. I had been doing some rebirthing work, and I was already involved in the work that I was doing. And he was like, I just loved the way that he said it. He was so excited that he was enlightened. And then, within like 20 minutes, something happened, and he was yelling and screaming at somebody down the road that cut him off or something. And I
Right.
said to him, this is not a very enlightened, it's not a very enlightened, action there. And he goes, "Did you see the guy? He just cut me off." And I go, "I got it. I got it." And it was so funny. And so it's like, and one day, I don't know how many years ago it was, I go, "Oh my God, enlightenment is just like being there with whatever it is happening." Oh, that's what Sai Baba and all those gurus were talking about, is being there with the situation. That's what enlightenment is.
Yes, yes. I find that so interesting to be with the situation, and to allow it to happen, to allow whatever is going on, and to be curious. When I can be that observer of the even of my own emotions, when I can be an observer of my emotions and be curious about them, about my emotions and about the situation, that is so empowering in and of itself. And that is one thing that helps me to regulate my emotions, is to just step back and look at it like an outside observer.
Absolutely. And every moment, and and the one thing is about, we had a saying in one of our business schools in the early 80s, which was trust the dance. Trust
Oh,
the dance. And it was one of, the school would come up with models of, that, just these beautiful models that every school had. And for years, the students, we would give them examples of one, and they would all choose like trust the dance. And 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 it was like, if we just keep choosing, like even now in the situation, even in the political situations, and if you really understand economics, and if you really understand how the world of money works, th- none of what is happening would be surprising. Like, for instance, right now in the United States, because it actually, so sorry, it actually is just something that could have been predicted. And I think that knowledge of entrepreneurial education, knowledge of global markets, knowledge of what is really happening in the world with a very neutral point of view allows you to be very intelligent in life. Remember, intelligence is how fast we can connect the dots. How fast can we connect the dots? That's what intelligence is. So the more information that you take in from all sides, you can't just go with one point of view, whether it's religious or political or health, vaccine, non-vaccine. Like, people get so behind just one thing, instead of like going, oh, I can see your side, I can see your side. And this is something that when I come back from Asia, I'm always so changed. I only spend nearly 3 weeks there, but there is this natural understanding that you can be in a room with people from 5 completely different religions, and they are all very devout, and the way that they interact in every level, and respectful of each other, and respectful of what they have to do, and invited. You can come over for Ramadan. Right now the Islamic world is, for a month they're doing Ramadan, and then be taught. Like, my Islamic friends were teaching me all these different things, and one of my favorite words in the whole world is inshallah, which is God willing. I love that, inshallah, God willing, right? And
yes, really.
yeah, and so, and then there was another one, and it was like kadar Allah, but it's one word, kadar Allah, which is not God willing, but God kind of like, God said, God decided that this was going to be the decision by God. And then they went through this whole explanation of the difference between inshallah and kadar Allah, and it was like this beautiful poetic view of this, the great spirit, um maybe guiding you. And it was like, and it's understanding deep inside of you that we are connected to nature, we are connected to something greater. And when we are inside and we connect to our own inner family, as we teach in Ho'oponopono, that allows for us to make decisions in a much more intelligent way. So, and again, it's connecting the dots and being open and receptive. It's like, the world is not black and white. It is not. There's certain things that are black and white, but the world has such a variety of people, right? And to be in Singapore, where there's no poverty, there's no crime,
Wow.
and 85% of the people own their own homes, they all have savings, right? And they have, um, there's many immigrants, there are people there who have less resources that come from around the region to work there. But the way that they have it, the orderly, how you have to apply, and how you bring them in, how long they can stay, and everything is controlled. I get it, but that's the way that they were going to be able to control this nation into becoming one of the 14 economically developed countries. They had to do it that way. And then I go, well, this probably never would have worked in the United States because, that's not how the American way is. And so you have to accept that. You have to like different people, variety of people. And then you can make your own choices, but not make one wrong or right.
Right. This is really interesting. You've talked a couple times about, understanding the rules of the game and accept that. And, you were talking about the challenges for women and dealing with a male dominated, situation. And many times as leaders, as women, we can fight against that. It shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have to do this. But learning to work harder, learning to work within that system is very, very important. What are some of the lessons that you have learned in that way with regard to accepting and working to be successful in those arenas?
I think that I learned in the legal system that if I created wealth in my life, I would have a lot more power and that I could actually do whatever I wanted. And that's the one good thing about money. Money can give you certain power. And because I came from the legal system, I knew that money could afford me really good attorneys. And I know that sounds crazy,
It's
but
true.
if you get into certain circles, you're going to need that, but not really, because once you go into the whole ponopono of life, I don't get into lawsuits. I don't sue anybody. Nobody sues me because I handle upsets ahead of time because I have a tremendous understanding of the legal field. But if you don't want to be at the effect of others, just create wealth. Money will give you that freedom. It may not give you all the happiness in the world, but it will give you that freedom.
True.
So I have two new friends, and I met two women that are so powerful. And we're talking about in the financial markets. And one is from the Middle East, and the other one is from the Asia Pacific region. And their energy and their attitude, and they deal with, like, for them to talk about $100 million US project is like everyday talk. They deal with much more than that. And then we were just having this conversation about one of them is going to be my guide about what I'm going to do with the business here in North America. And she says, oh, easy peasy. And then she takes like 5 minutes and just kind of like gives me this whole new paradigm on how to look at what to do with my business in North America. And she goes, oh my gosh, she goes, that's so easy. She goes, that would only take like 25 million. She goes, you need 25 million? And I go, um, it's like, that's interesting, and it was like, oh my God, with somebody with your experience and with your background and all that. She goes, I can have the paperwork done in 2 days. And I'm like, well, it's okay. I'm it's going to take me a little while for me to make some decision. She goes, oh my God. She goes, and that's so little. She goes, I would go with much higher. I mean, this is like her universe.
Yeah.
And this level of intelligence and this level of managing and handling and understanding the world markets. And she was the one that was sharing with me that she had to move to a certain city in China so that she could um, take care of all the American clients that she has that are wanting to do a lot of business in the Asia Pacific region and other parts of the world because they're not feeling really comfortable here. And it was like, okay, well, that's a new one, and it was like, that is not something that you hear in Fox News. It's not something you hear in CNN. And so when you are surrounded by people who live from a place of total possibility of access and have an understanding and knowledge of whatever area they are masters at, it rubs off on you. You begin to like go, oh my God, my world just opened up. I just accessed so
Right.
much more than I had before I got here. And that is a moment to moment knowledge. So I want to give everyone this assignment. Make a list of all the access that you have and make a list of all the assets that you have. And if you have what you consider very little, then your job is to open up and hang out with us. Hang out with us at the Los Angeles Tribune. Come to my Money and You program. Do my distinctions program. Get educated. Get powered up with entrepreneurial education. And nobody will mess with you. It won't matter that there's no equality anywhere in the world, because you will create your own little empire. You will create your own world. You will manage your life and live how you want. Have the freedom that you want. Do what you want when you want to do it, and not be like, oh, is this going to happen to me? None of that. So it's an empowerment that is self-empowerment from working on yourself and getting educated.
Oh, that is so, so true. The self-empowerment makes all the difference in our perspective. Look at your mother starting her own beauty salon in the 50s and making her own shampoos. Oh my goodness. And for you to have had that example and then to carry it through when you had so much loss, to realize that you were empowered, that you could take charge, that you could decide how you thought, how you reacted, and what you had control over, and then to learn to work within the system that you were dealing with. It's very empowering to hear you talk like that. I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate how you help so many women to become empowered. That's a beautiful gift that you give women. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
One last thing I want to ask you, if you could give advice to women as leaders, because many times women look at men and they say, well, it's easier for a man because this and that and the other thing. What unique things do you notice in women that give them an advantage as leaders?
They're better organizers. It's just the way that it is. It's in our DNA for us to put things away. It's in our DNA because of our ability to have children. Even for those of us that may have had miscarriage, my anatomy was created for me to have babies, right? So it's in our DNA to actually conserve and use that to your advantage, and then realize that intelligence is not related to whether you are a man or a woman. Intelligence just is, and knowledge just is, and then learn to. There's so much to say about this, but learn to really assess the situation that you're in, and if you need to leave, plan it and leave responsibly. This is one of my superpowers. I don't know where it came from, probably from mama, but I have had the ability to leave situations when it was necessary. And I think it saved my life a couple of times, because
Mm-hmm.
it was like, no, do not be here. Do not be here. And very lovingly, very, very responsibly kind of got myself out of that situation and left. This is a superpower, the ability to leave situations that are disempowering to you, that could be hurtful to you, that could even cost you your life. You just like, you, it's like, how much pain are you going to experience?
Mm-hmm.
What, you are 100% responsible for your life. And if you have children, also for your children. And so this codependency that we're trained to depend on a male figure. And yes, it's true. I have to admit that my beloved is much taller, much bigger. Yes, he could definitely defend me much more than I could in certain situations. But that's a very rare situation. That is when our reptilian mind is activated.
Right.
So remember, every human has a reptilian aspect to them, that if danger is coming, we're going to react, right? But that's a rare occasion. But a lot of times you see people, this is why people have to have guns all the time. They have to have, it's like, I got to have a gun. And like, okay, I understand. I was in court. I remember what happened having a gun in the house, but that's a whole other story. And yes, you can have one responsibly. Yes, yes, yes. But the thing is that, where does that come from? That fear constantly. Whereas if you're really clear, you can still have a gun, but it will be with a different energy.
Right.
And
From,
and
from,
it's
from fear. Yeah.
yes. So I started out very young that I was going to create success and have more than enough to be able to afford really good attorneys from a lot of fear because of this, because of the environment that I was in. And then as the years went by and I did more and more clearing and more clearing. And by the way, I still have tons of attorney friends. It's, I don't think I need to, I do pay certain legal fees, but not compared to what most regular people would, because so many of my friends are attorneys. It's a very different energy. So it's about energy.
Mhm.
And it's about coming home, 100% responsibility, have this beautiful partnership with men or with another female, if that is what your desire is to do, and to know that you are 100% responsible for your well-being in every area, and that money helps tremendously. So learn how to create an economic engine. For those of you who are very heart-based, heart-centered, then wrap that around your life purpose, and then allow yourself to have success. And go to fridayswithdoria.com, and the resources, look at the magical exercises, do those magical exercises, and build yourself up so that you have your own level of deservability. All of this is leadership. All of
Yes.
it.
Yes, that deservability is so massive because so many times we think our worth is dependent on external factors, what other people say, what they think about us, the things that are in our external world, our situations, but our worth is innate. And to raise our feelings of deservability are connected with understanding our true worth and our divine nature, as you were talking about our divinity. I appreciate that so much because I think that is a real core root issue that prevents a lot of people from believing that they can have the success in life or that they can achieve the kind of success that you have or the financial freedom that you have. And so I appreciate so much you bringing that key point in. Thank you so much for being with us, Dame Doria. You are a powerful woman, and I could just sit at your feet and just learn from you constantly.
And I
I
can learn from you
oh,
always.
thank you. That's so kind of you, and thank you for being with us. We wish that you could be with us at our Global Women's Leadership Symposium, where we will miss you terribly, but we're so grateful that we got to visit with you tonight and hear your wisdom, and can't wait to learn more at Fridays with Doria. And we will put the links in the comments so that all of you can connect with Dame Doria as well. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.